Thank you so much, Manuka ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
I welcome Dr. Chakravarti Mahajan. He has been an assistant professor in anthropology at the University of Delhi for more than a decade now. And he has also been a Charles Wallace Fellow at the Queen's University, Belfast. Sir has done his PhD from Punjab University, Chandigarh, and he has also taught there for some time. His research has primarily focused on Jammu and Kashmir, and he has engaged with a broad range of ethnographic and theoretical issues. For example, communalism, inter-community relations, psychosocial dimensions of militarization, and anthropology of health. He has many good publications to his credit in premier journals like Economic and Political Weekly. He has contributed a lot to Indian Sociology, Sociological Bulletin, Journal of Indian Anthropological Society. And presently, he is also working on an ICSSR funded project on social and mental health of border communities in Jammu and Kashmir. And he's co-investigating a project on infertility and psychological well-being funded by the National Commission for Women. There is a long list of his achievements. This is a very brief that I have introduced him with. I welcome Sir to our department. It has been a privilege and an honor to have you here for our special series on research methodology. And we are really fortunate to have you as our first speaker for the series. So I welcome you, sir, and I hand it over to Manuka ma'am again.
Thank you, Shikha. Welcome you, sir. And we won't come in between you and your students today. And we are also a part of your students because today we are learning something from you. I think you're muted, sir.
Yes.
So you can unmute and
Thank you, Professor Khanna. Thank you, Shikha. Raghavenji, thank you very much for Shikha, especially you. I mean, the way it sounded. I thought you are speaking, introducing someone else. So, so thank you very much, all of you, for this opportunity. I know how important this department is. Department of Political Science, Lucknow University's well-known department. It is known world over for its work. It's one of the oldest departments in the country. And when I'm speaking to you all, I think I'm speaking with a sense of gratitude in some ways, also with a sense of responsibility, because I'm talking not only as an individual, but also as an anthropologist who's based in Delhi University. So primarily, what I'm going to do today is, I think this is, please treat this as an informal lecture. It's not a lecture in the sense of a structured lecture, but then, as teachers, we all know that, we may get swayed by this structured way of delivering things. Raghavenji told me that, this session is for 1.5 hours. And what I'll do is I'll try to wrap up some of the ideas which I want to present before you in first 45 minutes, and then maybe for next 45 minutes, I can take your questions. So, again, you can interrupt me anywhere in between the lecture. Whenever any one of you, whenever you feel that something is little complex or you're not able to understand it, you can always drop a message in the chat box. So that's the thing. I've not actually titled the lecture as such, but then basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to question some of the ideas with which we start our research. Why do we do research? For example, this lecture can be titled as "Why do we do research?" or "What are the ways of knowing?" Why we want to know something, right? So I'm also aware of the fact that you people are research scholars and students of political science, and in some ways when Shikha was reading my bio, you might have realized that in some ways my work crossovers to political science, but then it is more to do with a subfield within anthropology, which is political anthropology. And I'll bring some examples from field to your for your observation. So, first question. Let's start with our first question of the day. What we know. How do we know what we know? So, for example, I just want to start with an example. For example, we all know that art revolves around sun. Or people in China, they speak Chinese language or Mandarin, right? We also know that vitamin C can help us. It somehow helps us against various infections. But how do we know this? Because either we have heard this from our family members, or some of it we have learned in our classrooms. And there are so many such things. For example, for example, there can be n number of examples that in some ways tell us that what we know is based on is based on our agreement with our parents, is based on our agreement with our teachers, and this knowledge is not something which is a first-hand knowledge, right? So, what is first-hand knowledge? Knowledge, as students, we perform, for example, some experiments in the class. Think about your physics practicals in school. Think about your chemistry practicals in school, where you first time experience ideas for example, some concepts like how do we see refraction, how do we see that a particular chemical is present as an adulterant in the food, right? So we do something, and what we observe, and sometimes you might have seen that this observation, whatever observation we do, we are asked to repeat that observation for 3 times. We take one observation, we record another observation, and the third observation, and then we kind of see that which whether an average, whether there is some kind of mean value which is coming to us or not. So in the same manner, we learn few things ourselves by our own observation, and there are things which we learn as children, as kids. When we grow in society, in any society, we get to learn a lot about that society. We get to learn about the worlds in which we know, in which we live, and this knowing is based on some kind of agreement. And also, you see, you have two very important forces which guide us in knowing. One is authority. One is authority, and another one is tradition. So, what is tradition? Um, uh, when we born into a world, there is this whole system which is already there. We are in a world where things are moving in a particular way, where politics is already happening. The way religion is practiced is already happening, right? So when it comes to tradition, and I'm not necessarily saying that tradition and authority and what you learn as kids, what we learn as students in a school, that is wrong, or that has no value. What I'm trying to bring to your notice is that there are many ways through which we know, through which you might have overheard this word common sense. Common sense, ये तो common sense की बात है, तुमको ये भी नहीं पता. And many a times, your classmates, your friends may tease you with something. For example, you may not know who sung a particular song. You may not know who was the third Prime Minister of India. Who may you may not know that something something related to wildlife, for example. There is a limit to human knowledge. There is a limit to what we can know, and also there are possibilities of knowing, right? So tradition is something which guides human beings, right? You have traditional ways of knowing, and you might have heard a lot about this word called traditional knowledge. So traditional knowledge is, if you see a lot of policy documents these days, they talk about traditional knowledge. They talk about the value of traditional knowledge and how traditional knowledge can help sustain the societies, right? So tradition, on the one hand, traditional knowledge, whether it is traditional knowledge about, you begin it with agriculture, you begin it with, environmental issues, and how traditional societies have been living in some kind of, resonance with nature. In the same manner, think about traditional knowledge in terms of traditional medicines, the kind of medicines which are available in our kitchen, or traditionally available resources on how to conduct ourselves. Tradition also guides us how to daily spend our time, how to do work. So in so many ways, tradition tells us, guides us, and it is through tradition that we get to know so many things, right? In the same manner, so one is tradition, second is authority. So what we know about the world and how the world is structured and how the world is can be systematically perceived is based on how authorities tell us to see a particular thing, right? So authorities, for example, you can so I'm not distinguishing necessarily between authorities only in terms of government, but then authorities at various levels. So so at the level of household, you may have a family head of the family, and there are certain rules in the family which are which and you have to follow those rules. For example, there can be rules about what time you have to wake up. You can so in the same manner, you may have rules about, what time you have to come back. If you see school as a system is a system of discipline, and then there a lot of students, although pandemic has changed things, but then traditionally school has been a place where you get to know a lot, because the authorities tell you that this is how we have to behave in a classroom. This is how we have to ask questions in a classroom, or not ask questions in the classroom. So a lot of what is learned at the level of household, at the level of school, or with peer. So you may have peer groups, students have peer groups, they have friends from their sports club, they may have friends from their dance classes. So we also learn a lot about the world from them also, right? So from family, from school, from your peers, and then there is a invisible thing which is state, and state has many ways of reaching us, right? What and you might have, as students of political science, what is the, when we say that you have to go according to land of law. So there are unsaid ways. There are, of course, I mean, there are rules and there are policies, and there are written things. But then, how do we perceive them? How do these rules, how these constitutional values, how what a state expects from us reach us? Huh? So I think that's something which is very, very interesting. If somebody is interested in doing a research on this, that how do we see the state? One is, how do we see the state, but then how do state reaches us? How do we perceive the state, and how do state communicates with us? So, and I think as students of political science, that in so many ways we are on an everyday basis interacting with the state, and then state has a way of telling us a few things which we think is some kind of knowledge, and we think that we know a lot about the state, right? So we about how one should live, how one should behave, how what are a person's duties, what are a person's responsibilities and rights, right? So in some ways, and as human beings, we share a lot. We wherever we are, uh, we share a lot, but not all the human beings are living in similar conditions. So whether these are climatic conditions, whether these are the kind of states in which we live, the kind of the kind of political powers that control us, they are not similar. So you'll see the political beliefs, the political opinions, they are also shaped by the knowledge we have. And how do we get that knowledge? Is through, I mean, nowadays social media plays a very important role, but then there are traditional ways of spreading that knowledge through traditional media, through radio and televisions, and that's how we get to know. नहीं, उसने तो टीवी में तो ये बोल रहे थे, हाँ, आजकल जैसे आपने देखा होगा बहुत सारे लोग व्हाट्सएप से बहुत सारी चीजें जानते हैं, और फिर वो ये कहने की कोशिश करते हैं हमें तो पता है क्योंकि हमने वो व्हाट्सएप पे मैसेज देखा है. So apart from tradition which guides us in knowing what we know, and in the same manner there is authority, right, which a legal authority or power in some sense, they guide us. So we know by the time we reach university department, where some of us experience some kind of liberty, in the sense that till now life is very, very structured. It is very monotonous. But then when we reach university classrooms, when you become master's students, and master's degree has twin purpose. I mean, one, you are getting to know the discipline specifically, because you have chosen that you have to do your masters in this discipline, and nobody has forced you into it, right? So if you decide to do a master's in political science or history or anthropology, it is purely your choice. I mean, that's what we assume. Maybe even at this stage somebody has forced you into the discipline, but then I think that is that might be a rare thing, right? So when you come to a discipline, I think that is where, or sometimes even in graduation, people may start exploring these ideas, which take you beyond what till then was known as knowledge to you, because this is universities and colleges are places where you first time come out of the kind of discipline, the kind of life which was knowing by agreement. Here students, they start exploring themselves, they start reading, they start conducting small experiments, they also start meeting a lot of other people. This is the first time you may start questioning your beliefs, what you know, your opinions, because you may have certain kind of beliefs for a particular religion, for example. You may have a certain kind of beliefs for a particular caste group, for example. So as human beings, we are product of socialization. We use this word very often in sociology. In anthropology, we call it enculturation. That the societies in which we grow, they leave their imprint forever, for life on us. If we are born into a particular religious, particular family which belongs to a particular religion or a caste group, that imprint is not going to go. But to be aware of the fact that what you may be thinking can come from the fact that you were born in a particular family, that awareness may come to you only when you come to a university department, or if you have a particular kind of network where people make you think about these questions, right? So essentially what I'm trying to bring you is bring to the idea that why do we after all do research. And I think you might be getting my hints. I've been trying to bring you to towards the idea of research, because research, if you see, is seen as something. I do not know, and I think at this stage I may like one or two of you to speak on the idea that those who are research scholars. Why do we do research after all? Of course, some people may say that research is, these days it's very without research we won't be able to get a job. Without research, we may not get a teaching position, because now the UGC has made PhD mandatory, although they have relaxed it for a few years. But PhD is going to be mandatory for a teaching job. That's why we are doing research. That's one way of answering the idea. But then whatever little I've talked to you till now, this whole idea that how do we know what we know, and what I've told you till now is that what we know, a lot of what we know comes from the from, this is based on some kind of agreement with tradition and authority. When it comes to our families, when it comes to our schools, when it comes to our peer groups, we know things because we agree with them. That, yes, okay, a teacher is telling us that, Earth moves around sun. That's a fact. Sun rises in the east. That's a fact. And there are many more facts. We can have beliefs which we might have inherited from our teachers who may have certain kind of biases towards a particular a religion, a caste group, or a political party. But then just because our teachers are saying that these things, we may also assume. So since I've kind of prepared a ground for you to now reflect on the idea of research, I may request one of you, or maybe 2, 3, whosoever wants to speak a bit about. Then, what do you think that research can? How research can be different from common sense, or commonsensical knowledge? Anyone of you? So this is purely kind of, a classroom. Just feel like you are sitting in a classroom. So I won't mind any kind of reaction to it. This provocation which I've brought to you. So.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, somebody.
Yes, morning, sir.
Morning.
सर आई थिंक सर रिसर्च मतलब जैसे कि री प्लस सर्च, मतलब हमें जो भी पता है वो कम्प्लीटली पता नहीं होता है. तो सर हम जैसे कि जो नेचर है वो काफी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड और काफी कॉम्प्लेक्स है. तो और सर ह्यूमन अंडरस्टैंडिंग की एक लिमिट भी है. तो हम हमेशा मतलब रिसर्च के थ्रू कुछ ना कुछ नया फाइंड करने की कोशिश करते हैं.
जी.
यस सर, मतलब सर रिसर्च मतलब कि इम्प्रूवमेंट जरूरी नहीं है, बट हमेशा कुछ ना कुछ न्यू नॉलेज आता रहता है. देन अल्टीमेटली फाइनली एक टाइम आएगा जब हम नेचर को काफी हद तक जानेंगे.
राइट. या, थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
This is Akshita. A deeper understanding of a particular topic that we are researching. A complete and wholesome knowledge about that topic.
Right. Thank you.
May I?
Yes.
Sir, in my opinion, research reinforces our knowledge. It justifies our facts. It helps us to form our own ideas rather than what we learn from society or what we learn from our traditions. It helps us to form an idea on a topic that we are researching for.
Okay. So, I think wonderful. I'm really happy that you people are pretty clear about what research is and what actually mean. So at this level, I want to bring to you 2 words. One is a word which is I think pretty well known to students who have already done research methodology classes. The word is epistemology. Epistemology. Okay, and I'm sure you people know this word, epistemology. Okay, so epistemology is a branch of philosophy, right? Epistemology is a branch of philosophy which actually deals with the idea of knowing. How do we know what we know? Okay, so what we've been discussing till now is the idea of epistemology. Epistemology is a sub-discipline within the discipline of philosophy. Philosophy, which is actually, if you see, most of what we do in our disciplines in social science, a lot of the ideas for these disciplines, they stem from the discipline of philosophy. Right. So epistemology as a subdiscipline of philosophy, it deals with ways of knowing, how we know what we know, right? The politics of knowledge. In other words, it also deals with politics of knowledge, right? And the second thing, which is very important, and that is going to be very important for this workshop, because I think this is going to go on for several days. The next word is methodology. Okay, so one is epistemology, and second word is methodology. So what is methodology? Methodology is actually, if you see, methodology is another branch, and in fact, I found out a very interesting definition of methodology this morning, and I think that will make your and my job very easy. So methodology is the science of finding out. Methodology is the science of finding out. By the way, just like epistemology, methodology is also one of the subdisciplines in philosophy. So methodology. So there can be a separate master's course in research methodology also. So there are universities which are now having a 1-year certificate course or diploma course or even master's course in research methodology, right? So methodology, epistemology, if epistemology is the science of knowing, then methodology is the science of finding out, or to find out what are the procedures which are required to carry out a scientific investigation. What are the procedures through which we carry out a particular investigation? In our case, social investigation also, right? So this is very important, that we should know. When we sometimes loosely use the term methodology, we kind of confuse it with methods. Okay, so methodology, if you see, is the bigger circle, and within that bigger circle, you will see there are one more word we often use when we write our chapters. People who are doing their MPhils or PhDs, they know this, that when we, or even during whenever we submit our research projects, we prepare a section on methodology, but then rather than describing the methodologies, we come straight away to methods. So you'll see that somebody will write that my work is based on quantitative methods, and this is these were the supplementary methods that we used in the project. So somebody will say that we used observation, somebody will say that we used interview method, right? So method is how you use a particular method in order to know something. But methodology is this overall philosophy, overall it's like it's like you may know the recipe of cooking. It's also like philosophy of recipe. You want to cook, that these are the ingredients which are required. These are the this is how if you mix these ingredients, then a particular kind of food is going to emerge. But then methodology is this sense, this nag, that what goes first, what goes next, and what is it that you're expecting from a particular research, right? So this overall umbrella for your project, whatever your research project is, whether it is it's a classroom research project, or MPhil or a PhD dissertation, methodology gives you this overall idea that this is how I'm going to navigate the research. This is how I imagine the project. This is how I will conduct the research project, and this will be an outcome. We also have this in our minds that this is what this might come out of this project, right? So that's a bit about epistemology and methodology. We are like 40 minutes, almost 40 minutes into the lecture, but then a few things I want to emphasize. While we do research, we often forget the fact that there are ways of knowing, and we and as somebody was saying when they were talking about research, that human worlds are extremely complex. Human reality is extremely complex, and what we do as researchers, what we try to do, we kind of we try and understand a problem, and then we kind of replicate what is reality out there into a dissertation or into a research paper. So something is happening. For example, today, if I ask you, if I give you an assignment that you have to write about India-Pakistan relations for last 10 years. I mean, you have to prepare a paper on India-Pakistan relationship since 9/11, September that 2001, that attack on America by Taliban, and how that has impacted India's relationship with the Pakistan. Or there can be other landmarks or events which after which you want to study a particular issue. There can be n number of research problems which you can identify, but then the complexity, when you think about India-Pakistan relationships, as an IR expert, as someone who's dealing with international relations, people who are part of track 2 processes, they may have a very different take on how India-Pakistan relations have unfolded over the years, right? In a similar manner, government, if somebody from government is writing this paper, they are going to write it completely differently. And also, as a student, when you write it, what are your sources? Whether you are going to write this paper based on your conversations with the diplomats who actually decide on policy level for both the nations or state, or the representatives of the state, or parliamentarians, who is it that you're going to interview? I mean, at all, because a lot of what is written about India-Pakistan relationship may be based on newspaper clippings. It may be based on some kind of material which is available, policy documents which are available with you. So what kind of data you are going to have, that is going to determine the kind of a paper that is going to come out of. So essentially, let me go back to the earlier point which I was trying to make, that what is reality? Reality, human reality is complex, right? Human reality, there can be many realities. As an anthropologist, and also I think people also know the difference between positivistic methodologies and interpretive or qualitative methods. So when it comes to positivistic methodologies, for them, the precondition is that truth is one, reality is one. For us, who deal with qualitative methods, is that there can be multiple truths. There can be multiple realities. There can be multiple ways of seeing and perceiving the world, right? So when we are starting our observations with the idea that truths can be multiple, truths, realities can be multiple, then we also know that, to know is also a very complex thing, and how sometimes we may, we may also, we are at a risk of doing things inaccurately, doing things which may bring errors into what we do. So very quickly, I just want to bring to your notice that, what are the main errors that as researchers we may fall for. And one of the errors is selective observation, right? We sometimes may not see a particular phenomena, a particular reality, taking into cognizance the whole picture. We may do selective observations. And as students of political science, that what can be the pitfalls of doing selective observation. And these days, you all may be following newspapers, you all may be seeing things on social media. And there was this recent event in your state, which became very, very, politically, some people said it's politically motivated. Some people said this is so they, just don't go by the media reports. But then how just because now we have technology and camera cannot be wrong. So a lot of what was shown on camera during this incidents where somebody who belongs to a particular political party, who comes from a political family, runs over a crowd of people. Let's forget about who the person was. Let's also forget for a moment who the crowd were, right? So what is happening there? And if we think that what happened there was complex, and to human minds, it may be a little, for human minds, it may be a little tricky to understand what is happening there. I think that's we need to think. If some people say that this what was happening there, we did not understand it, I think then what we are saying is not truth. We saw something was happening. There was a car, and that car came and crushed few individuals, right? But then people also said that once that car crushed few people, after that what happened? After that also there is an aftermath. And I think at this moment I've not shared any references, but please, whenever you get time, read a book by Shahid Amin. Shahid Amin was a professor of history in Delhi University. He wrote a book on Chauri Chora Kand, which happened in I'm forgetting the year, and I think some of you may know that. And a book about this place. It's called Event, Metaphor and Memory. Event, Memory and Metaphor. Event, Memory and Metaphor. And how after 50 years of this event, people recall what happened on that day. People who belong to this village, they recall what happened on that particular day, and how the event was presented in the media, how the event was presented by the colonial British media, how the event was presented by the congressmen, how the event was seen by the local villagers, right? So what I'm saying is, again, coming back to the idea that human mind can be complex, and that's why there are ways in which human beings as researchers can commit errors. We should be aware of the fact that we should not do selective observations. Observations should be holistic in nature. We should be open to all the stakeholders. All the stakeholders who are participants in a particular event, we should talk to them. So sometimes, we may go to a police thana, an event of violence has happened, and a police thana may have a particular take on it. People who are involved into that event, for example, it is a bloody caste, war related event, and then we have to talk to both the parties. And this, this observation, this investigation may take a long time, right? But then you are not doing selective observation. What you are doing is you're talking to all the stakeholders who are involved in this project, right? So that is one thing. Second is, we often fall trap to illogical reasoning. Okay, I mean, reasoning is it is through reasoning that we understand something. Some phenomena is there, some policies getting implemented, and we want to evaluate that how that policy is being implemented, whether that policy has yielded the results which a government was hoping that this policy may bring some kind of change. But then when we are trying to evaluate a particular kind of project, or they can be other examples also, right? I mean, think about the farmers' protests which are going on for several months now, and we are, for example, you are a researcher who's researching this particular farmers movement, this particular farmers protest, and your question is that, for example, you want to you are basically interested in knowing what is the state of peasant movements. So if you see, India has a tradition of peasants movement. This is not the first time that a farmers protest is happening. UP has this whole history of Kisan Andolans, right? And these peasants movements, you might have even seen peasant protest in Tebaga, in Telangana, in other parts of India, and we just want to understand that how this particular farmers protest is different from, say, the earlier protests. But then you are someone who has already believed the fact that whatever is happening now is not a farmers' protest. So you might have seen some of the panelists coming on media debates claiming again and again the fact that the people who are protesting at the farmers' protest site, they are not the quote unquote original farmers, but they are people who are deployed by particular political parties there, right? So, and you might have seen that, observed them, these kind of opinions on media debates every single day, speaking without any logical reasoning, right? So one is, as researchers, we should avoid doing selective observations. Second thing is, we should avoid illogical reasoning which is not based on some kind of research, which is not based on, again, I'll say that, a lot of what goes around these days is that we listen from here, we listen from one source, we listen from another source, and then there is this whole politics of social media, and then we try and make our opinions, and we think that our opinions are based on some kind of research. That is not research. Research is a systematic process. Research is based on long-term engagement with the field. It is based on some kind of commitment to what you're doing. And it is, again, going back to epistemology, how we know what we know, right? So as researchers, our work is to go beyond common sense. I mean, sometimes, people also say jokingly that common sense is not so common. So if common sense is not so common, then research-based knowledge is far more difficult to access. Because what we see today in the name of research also, a lot of people, you'll see that their work is based on selective observation. Their work is based on sometimes illogical reasoning. And also, third thing, and again, very important, that is overgeneralization. We tend to overgeneralize things. For example, we might have conducted research in a particular university, or in a particular mohalla, in a particular enclave, and then we are trying to replicate the whole thing for a larger world. We should avoid falling into the trap of this also. So I think these three basic ideas, and I think you can easily, I think we can discuss more while it's already 55 minutes, and I think I need to kind of give you some time to ask questions. So basically, this idea was to introduce you to two basic terms. One is epistemology, and second one is observation. Second one is methodology. And the third thing we have done in this lecture is that we have I have introduced you to a few errors, just because human reality outside, truth outside, can be complex. In the same manner, human beings who are researching a particular a phenomena or particular event, they are also complex beings. So there are chances that we may fall into the trap of error. So how do we avoid those errors? Is by observing wholesomely, by observing holistically, doing logically explaining whatever we see. And then the third thing which I brought to your notice is that not to overgeneralize. Whatever you know, whatever is based on your research, and whatever you have read, whatever theories you have read, whatever little you know, I think you should speak for that, not for the whole world. That again becomes some kind of opinion or a perspective. That's why you might have seen in Economic and Political Weekly, you have sections, you have commentaries. If you want to comment on something, there's a commentary section. There is a special article sections which deals with empirical research. And then you have perspectives. You also have field notes section, right? So when we are talking about producing research, the kind of research we want you people to produce as PhD and MPhil scholars, or even ourselves as teachers or as researchers who are working on these research projects, we should produce works which are based on primary sources, which are based on some kind of engagement, long-term engagement with the text, or with the with long-term engagement with the people. So I think with that, I want to invite some questions from you all, and then we can obviously take forward this conversation.
Sir, I have a question, and it's not a question exactly. This is to help my students from research methodology class. Many a times when students are writing their term papers, or when they select a topic, they tend to take very broad, generalized umbrella terms, and then they want to write a term paper or do a research on that. For example, they just come up and say that, ma'am, I'll work on relevance of Marxism, or I'll work on globalization. Now, when I ask them, okay, what on globalization? Then they go blank. Ma'am, challenges to globalization. And then we have to delve a little deeper. Okay, what challenges to globalization? What will you do in that? So, sir, if you could just elaborate a little on as to how do we, define a problem before actually undertaking research. I think that is one major hurdle which is faced by most of the students.
True. I completely agree with you, Shikha. I think that is something which is which we all as as students, when we were students, we also struggled with those questions. We still struggle with this question. This is a very important question, that what is it that we should research on? Why? And also, why is it that in India, most of the researchers, and we have seen it in political science, in social sciences also, they will either the first choice would be caste, the second choice would be communalism, intercommunity relations. They may also choose on India-Pakistan relations, for that matter. So there are certain topics which you'll see, or they'll say women's issues, or they may talk about say labor issues. So why do we want to research on certain issues? Because they affect us on everyday basis. Most of our research problems emerge from the fact that we are dealing with those, and sometimes just to make sense of those issues, we try and enter into that. Or this is one way of approaching a research problem. Another way is that some people they may come across some fancy research topics. They may go through some of the journal issues. They may read a certain they may read a few books, and then they may feel that these are very fancy topics, and I think we should do research on these, because these are topics which are in. And even sometimes, teachers casually sometimes they remark that, आजकल ये चल रहा है, आजकल क्या चल रहा है, आजकल ये चल रहा है, आजकल फॉग चल रहा है, तो आजकल इसी पे कर लो। सब बच्चों ने आजकल जो है ये टॉपिक ये बहुत बढ़िया टॉपिक है आजकल रिसर्च का। So sometimes, we as students, as researchers, we are not even aware of the fact that why we are choosing a particular research problem. So I think the best thing is, as anthropologists, what I've realized is that the issues which are closer to your heart because they are affecting you personally, if you choose them, and if you know that you can do justice to that kind of research, and if you're really interested in that, and for that, Shikha, I think what we generally don't do as sometimes, as teachers also, we fail from our duties that, we are not able to motivate our students to read enough, to go through the relevant literature. And when you do not read, when you think that what you're doing is going to change the fate of the world, then we are seriously in a problem. And I think I don't know what is my take on that, but I think over the years, from my own experience, what I've learned is that one, an issue which is affecting you personally, and second, if you have read well, if you have spent a good amount of time reading on a particular issue, whether it is, now, as political scientists also, I know, political science from my own university, Punjab University, just because when I was doing my work on Jammu and Kashmir, I came in contact with, professors who were teaching political science at Jammu and Kashmir universities. So what I've learned that, today, there were times when people were in some sense, they were told that, what you are doing is not anthropology or not political science or not history. Today, a lot of people are doing work which is interdisciplinary in research and in nature. And today, nobody is going to question you that what you are doing is not political science. Gone are the days. Because earlier, you were a political scientist, either you were doing work in IRs or state politics or, comparative politics. But today, you can go and do work which is more socially relevant, which is more policy, which deals with policies. And I mean, so over the years, the restrictions have the kind of research work we can do. It has become the possibility has become much more. Today, you can approach the field with much more comfort and with much more knowledge, which was not the case earlier. So I think two things. One, issues which affect us personally, and the second, whatever you read. And I think that there I was trying to bring in. Sometimes, we may be interested in reading literature, whether it is literature which is published in the local languages, for example, in Hindi, and you may be reading, a lot of literature which is being produced by literature people. But then you know that what are the issues which are emerging from the field. And sometimes that literature can also become basis of how you approach your problem. So you should know what is it that you want to research on. What is the knowledge, pool of knowledge which already exists. I think if we are aware of these two things, I think it will be easy for us to at least, zero down on a research problem. Yeah, Shika. I think there are questions.
Good morning, sir. Aniket here.
Yeah,
Hello.
Aniket. Okay.
Yeah, so Aniket here from Department of Political Science. Sir, I have a question that most of our researchers are going as a interdisciplinary, or we can say that multidisciplinary in nature. For example, if I am pursuing a research, there is something.
Anupriya, can you mute yourself? Yeah. Now, Aniket, please.
Sir, am I audible? Sir, as I am saying that most of our researches today are turning into interdisciplinary. So, for example, if I am pursuing a research in a domain of international relation and I have chosen a topic Quad, so how should I approach that? How should I collect a relevant fact and not only limited to political or strategic and military relation between all that four powers, but also people to people relation and all that kind of relationship between that four countries, which includes in Quad, that is India, America, Japan, and Australia.
Aniket, I think
Yes, sir.
Aniket, you can Surya Bhan can mute. I think some people can mute themselves
So I'm doing that.
because that is affecting the sound. Okay, so before I come to your question, Aniket, Anupriya Mishra has asked a question, sir. As human beings, we all have some biases in our mind. How can we avoid these biases? And that's a very, very relevant question. I did discuss a bit about it because you see, we grow up in a particular culture, we grow up in a particular society, we grow up in a particular caste, we grow up as a Hindu or a Muslim or a Sikh or a Christian. So we cannot actually kind of you know really avoid falling falling for our biases. These biases are too many. I mean, just these biases are like, when you're doing observation for research. So just like my glasses, think that you have so many glasses already on. So there is a lens of caste already there. There is a lens of religion already there. There is a lens of nationality already there. So as an Indian, when you're researching, uh, you know, Indian-American relationships or America's relationship with Japan, or whatever you want to say, want to do. So these positionalities in research, we talk about positionality now, because again, when we were discussing about the complexities of research, as well as complexity of the reality, as well as complexity of the human being, what we can do in order to avoid some of the biases can be avoided by the fact that you are telling your identity to the readers. You are telling that who you are. That for example, you are a woman from upper caste studying Dalit women and their marginalization. But then when you tell that, I am so and so, I belong to this caste group, and I come from this kind of economic background, my father is an IAS officer or somebody, then at least you are honest to the fact that, some of whatever your observations are, they can come from the fact that you belong to a particular caste group, and you come from a certain kind of certain familial background, right? So the awareness that you come from a particular background to your reader is already doing half the work, because when you write, those biases can be minimized, but those biases may not go away always. Although there are researchers who may kind of overcome those biases, but then those, to say that you can avoid all the biases, that is not so. But in I do not know about political science, what kind of debates exist in political science with regard to idea of validity, and that too when you are doing your research based on qualitative methods. Because what I see in political science and also in other social sciences, positivistic methodologies and the positivistic framework has not lost its grip. So people would ask you, how did you use, how the sampling was done, how, how, how validity, how this data can be validated. Is, replication possible? So those questions are there, but then, in qualitative research, these questions are now are taken are asked with lot more sensitivity. So those accusations where you say that what you're doing is wrong, those accusations you won't face from at least your fellow peers, people who review your journal articles, people who review your book manuscripts. They're not going to ask you, just because you have not used positivistic framework, you have not used sampling, and you have not done proper validity and reliability testing, we are not going to publish you. Because now there is this realization that biases can be there, but then to be aware and to minimize those biases, the best thing is to say that you come from a particular kind of position. This is your positionality, and there is another word in anthropology which we use, that is reflexivity. You are aware of your position, and you are also reflecting on the fact that these are the places where you might have gone wrong because I come from this position. Okay, so that was the bias question, Anupriya's question. Aniket, I think you have to repeat the question again.
Okay, sir, sure. Sir, and my question is that as our research currently is turning more and more interdisciplinary in nature. So if I am taking a topic on international politics, for example, a relation between India and US, so I have to tackle the issues of geography, I have to tackle economic issues. I could not limit myself only to political relation or only to military relation between the two powers. So, sir, my question is that how can I or any other researcher who are going to pursue research in that, how to, what is the correct method to approach for that research?
That's like a lot of questions in a single question, but I do understand the intention. I am not an IR person, so I think somebody can actually take up. Maybe Shikha can take up that question. Yeah.
I'm not taking up Aniket's question because that will get answered in the forthcoming sessions. But I have a question that might answer his query as well.
Okay.
Sir, if you could share your fieldwork, especially in Jammu and Kashmir, the project that you're working on, you have worked on. Because Jammu and Kashmir has been an area of interest to all the students who are present here. And it has been a very contested issue. So we would like to know of your research and findings, if you could share some of them.
Yeah, I think that makes my life easy, and also I think in some ways I'll be able to answer Aniket's question. You see, when I started working on Jammu and Kashmir, this was like long back. I have not published much, but then I do, keep reading whatever is being produced. So the first few years when I started visiting the field, most of what was available was actually the literature, um, one which which situated Kashmir within the framework of India-Pakistan relations. So there was this international dimension which was very much part of what was written on Jammu and Kashmir till then. So if you see people like Sumit Ganguly, if you see Sumantra Bose, if you see many other people who have Ashutosh Varshney, for example, has also written a bit about Kashmir. So I mean, a lot of, or I mean, if you think about international scholarship, I'm forgetting some of the names. Most of them, they kind of try and situate Jammu and Kashmir as some kind of international dispute between India and Pakistan. So that is one thread which deals with Jammu and Kashmir. Second kind of literature which was available to us was basically about federalism, right? So basically, Jammu and Kashmir as a case of asymmetric federalism, right? Professor Rita Chaudhary Tremblay, who's at Victoria University, she brought in this idea of asymmetric. Although other people, even before her, a lot of people had talked about constitutional position of Jammu and Kashmir within Indian politics. And that was the second kind of literature where you would see Jammu Kashmir's position with regard to other states. And then there was another area which was where some work was done was state politics. So people like Rekha Chaudhary, Gul Mohammad Wani, Noor Ahmad Baba, a lot of these people, they were talking about, or Balraj Puri, a very important political commentator, who were talking about Jammu and Kashmir as a political entity, and then talking about the politics within. So the idea of Greater Kashmir, the idea of the tensions between the regions within Jammu and Kashmir. Balraj Puri saying that if you have to understand Kashmir, you have to understand Jammu first, and then as a region, and then only you can understand what is Kashmir. So for students of political science, these were already three given areas which were there, right? So within the domain of IR, you have Kashmir as an international dispute. You have people who are talking about federalism. So they were there. And then third group of people who were talking within the state. So what do I do as an anthropologist? As an anthropologist, you are supposed to go to, initially, you are supposed to go to places and study these places for a long term. So usually in anthropology, whatever you do is based on fieldwork. In socio-cultural anthropology, whatever you do is based on fieldwork, and these are long-term fieldworks wherein you are supposed to stay at a particular place. This was traditionally one place, but later on you could visit more than one area also. So So what when I started going to the field, I did not know what to do exactly. What is it that I have to do when I'm going to Jammu and Kashmir? So basically, initially I thought that I'll also, just like other researchers, I'll also go and study Kashmir Valley, which is the center of the conflict, and see how youth of Valley, they are perceiving the conflict around them, how conflict has kind of impacted them. But then this chance meeting with Professor Rekha Chaudhary, who was a professor of political science there. I also met other people during the initial days of my research, including Balraj Puri and other people. But then it was Professor Rekha Chaudhary who kind of guided me to my present field area, which is a district which is south of Kashmir Valley and north of Jammu. So on a map of Jammu and Kashmir, what you'll see is that valley also you have, towards the east you have Ladakh, then in between you have Kashmir Valley, and then towards the west and towards west and south you have Jammu region. And Jammu and Kashmir regions, they are they have a natural boundary to them, and that's called Pir Panjal range. So Pir Panjal range is where my field area is situated. It's called Doda region, sub-region within Jammu region, and it's south of Valley. And Professor Chaudhary guided me to Doda because because she was already an accomplished researcher. She knew that what is lagging with regard to research on Jammu and Kashmir. So she said, there are a lot of people who are doing work on on Kashmir Valley. Also, there is some kind of research. At that point, Jammu region was not being studied, by anthropologists and sociologists. But later on, a lot of people started doing their work there also, on issues of border, on issues of caste. But then this particular region was very important because if you see, Kashmir Valley was demographically Muslim dominant. It belonged to ethnic Kashmiri people who were around 98-99% of the valley's population is composed of Kashmiri Muslims. Even when before 89 Pandits were there, they were a very, very small minority. They were a very, very small, tiny minority. They were 2 to 3% even before 89, right? Maximum 4 or 5%. So on the other hand, if you see Jammu region is a much more complex region, although substantially Hindu dominated. But then within Hindus, within the region, you'll see Hindus dominating a particular part of Jammu region. And then when you come towards the hills, you'll find mixed pockets. So the areas like Poonch, Rajouri, Riyasi, Doda, Kishtwad, Ramban, these are the areas which are mixed population areas. And more so, Doda at that point, Ramban and Kishtwad, they were part of Doda district only. It was only in 2006 that they were bifurcated into 2 more districts. So basically, what she wanted me to understand was to see how Hindu-Muslim relations have shaped in the wake of militancy there, right? And as Shikha was saying that, what are the main findings? One of the things which I learned from my field was that when militancy began, in 89, or even before that, 88, 89. And yeah, this is, thanks for sharing that, Aniket. So I'm talking about, okay, this is proposed union territories. So the darker pink portion is yeah, the darker pink portion is Union Territory towards the south. Jammu, you see towards Punjab is Jammu region. And you can see this river called Chenab flowing. Chenab starts somewhere in Himachal Pradesh, and then it flows into Jammu region. And Chenab is basically so the place from where Chenab is entering Jammu and Kashmir is basically that falls in Doda region. And my village is across the Chenab. So if you go from North India to Kashmir, the places where I did my fieldwork is across the other cis Chenab area. So basically, demographically, very interesting area where Hindus and Muslims live in almost equal numbers. At certain places, Hindus are dominant, other places, Muslims are dominant. So, but they live in mixed localities. So, one of the basic findings which I was able to kind of think was that rather than militancy, a lot of people were saying that militancy has shaped Hindu-Muslim relations. But then in this part, what happened was that the kind of Hindu-Muslim relations this area had for traditionally for many years, for several years, they shaped the nature of militancy. So rather than militancy shaping the nature of Hindu-Muslim relations here, Hindu-Muslim relations here, they shaped militancy, right? So you might know, and some of you might have heard about, a number of communal massacres which happened in this area, and that because of that, BJP at that time also started saying that, just the way, Aniket, I think we can you can stop sharing screen. So the way Kashmir Valley has seen the exodus of the Pandits, the way Valley has been ethnically cleared of the minority population, in the same manner this region may also see the exodus of the Hindus, right? But that was a political stance. What you see as a researcher there is that the local Hindus and Muslims, they were embedded into the society so much, and because of the demographics also, because of the power structure also, that wasn't possible. But then it worked really well in the favor of BJP. Over the years, these regions which never saw many BJP MLAs winning, in 2014 election, out of the 6 seats which belong to this area, in fact, one of the chief ministers from Jammu region, Ghulam Nabi Azad, this is basically that area from where he comes. And in the history of Jammu and Kashmir, it was the first time when Ghulam Nabi Azad became the chief minister that somebody from Jammu region had actually become the chief minister of the state. So, so basically, only in 2014 BJP could win 4 out of the 6 seats. So even electorally, the movement went in favor of BJP. So yeah, I think I am a little lost, but let me regain. Let me come back um, to the original questions that so if you see, I mean, you have to deal with all kind of literature. Um, when it comes to Jammu and Kashmir, you have literature which belongs to IR. There is literature which belongs to federalism. There is literature which belongs to state politics. Then, as anthropologists and sociologists, because we do qualitative micro studies, what is it that we can contribute to the larger body of knowledge? So over the years, what I've seen is that a lot of anthropologists and sociologists, they've started studying the issues of social relevance on a small scale basis, even in Valley, where anthropologists have talked about how human rights violations have happened over the years, or how people who have disappeared over the years due to the conflict situation. What has happened to the women who are considered as half widows because they do not even know whether their husbands are dead or alive, right? So now those issues are being taken up. There are issues because of this kind of situation, a war-like situation, conflict-like situation. How counterinsurgency operations, they impact local populations and their economy, how notions of trust have changed over the years, how businessmen are dealing with the a continuous conflict-like situation. All those issues are being taken up by the new generation of anthropologists and sociologists. In the same manner, in Jammu region, a lot of work is going on, say, how borders, because you see, the nature of border in Jammu and Kashmir is very different from IB, from international border. So a part of Jammu and Kashmir's border is international border, but a lot of the border is known as LOC, which was known as ceasefire line before 71, right? So ceasefire line over the years has become line of control, and line of control is now being and also if you go to even अभी भी जो passport की website पे, home ministry की website पे, you'll see there'll be a column for LOC pass. So you see, at the on the one hand, the national pride, and I mean, recently you might have seen that how nationality becomes such a profound thing when you see cricket matches. But then there are regions within India which somehow break those nationalistic stereotypes. They in fact force, because of those regions, forces. I mean, you can confidence. You might have heard about confidence building measures, and whenever there are tensions, these confidence building measures are kind of stopped. So some Jota train is stopped, and other things are done. But then the people, just because people who live around LOC, this side as well as that side, they are connected to each other because they are family members. So as a state, you take care of, just because you have to take care of your citizens, so you allow them to move around with a LOC pass. So I think in general, people might not even know that people from Jammu and Kashmir, they can actually travel to the other part, to Pakistan, to meet their relatives on a LOC pass. They don't need a visa, right? So I think I took you to all kinds of directions, confused you more. It's already, I think, time, and thank you very much. It was really nice.
Thank you so much, sir. Right on the first day, you introduced us to political anthropology. And to be very honest, at the Department of Political Science, Lucknow University, this is the least explored field in terms of research. So, and I'm sure students have not looked at this field in the way you explained it to us and introduced it to us. So that was very interesting. And major takeaways from this session were how a passionate researcher talks about his own research and the areas that, beautiful areas that he has been fortunate enough to visit. So that is a major takeaway for me as well as I'm sure my students. Over to Aniket. Aniket will wrap up the session.
So I would like to extend my gratitude to Dr. Chakravarti Mahajan sir for sharing with us his valuable knowledge about Jammu and Kashmir and to introducing us with basics and terminologies of research. We are highly grateful to our Head of Department, Professor Manfatna ma'am, and our faculty members, Dr. Shikha Chauhan ma'am and Dr. Raghavan sir. I would also like to thank participants who have joined this session. Thank you for your cooperation.
Yeah, thank you everyone. I really enjoyed this session. Raghavanji, thank you very much for. Initially, I thought I'm a last-minute replacement, but then I think overall it went well. So yeah, thank you all.
Thank you
very
so much, sir.
Looking forward
Thank
to
you so much, sir.
more such interactions in future as well. Thank you.
Definitely, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.